And sound is everything. When you think and feel, you're creating sound. This is how the heart beats at a certain resonance. All you're looking at here are interacting frequencies making a beat. And so while the frequency of the heart is at the right level, it beats in the normal number of beats a minute. But when we become stressed, we affect that frequency and the heart beats faster. And so everything is sound, even the human heartbeat, and the interacting frequencies that make it happen. And we've seen the galaxies, and now here are the planets forming, just on a plate from particles caused by sound passing through them. This planet has a resonant frequency. It's called the Schumann cavity resonance. But basically, while that frequency holds, the planet will hold its present form. If the frequency changes, the form will change. It's the same with everything. And here you see sound being passed through ion filings and particles, and therefore creating form once again. And from these pictures, it's hardly difficult to see how the human body is formed through sound resonating energy, and how that physical form is held as long as that sound matrix is held. But once that changes, the physical body changes. So there you've seen, with stunning effect, how sound creates form, how galaxies are created, how planets are created. And all those planets, balls of particles, all those revolving galaxies were merely particles turned into that form by sound. And when you think, you create a sound and you change the world, or the world you're immediately living in. We are fundamentally in control of our lives. Here's a picture, because some of this energy that we give out, this energy that we are, can now be seen. Kirlian photography and other forms of photography can now picture the image of the energy that is actually animating our body. What is really the eternal us? And here you see someone's finger and the energy going off it. And the nature of that energy depends on what we're thinking and what we're feeling at the time. And here's some examples of how people on a psychic level and their psychic vision have seen the auras, the energy fields of people in different states of being. And indeed, if anyone's come to some of these various spiritual and health expos and expositions around the world, they will have seen this aura photographing technology now, which can photograph the colors in the aura. And the colors change when our attitudes change. And here are different attitudes and phenomenally different colors and sequences appearing as a result of the sound and sound waves and thought waves that are generated when we change into different states of feeling. And the more we change our energy field, the more we draw in different people, different experiences, we change and we create our own reality. This is the energy field of a leaf. And what they've found is that when you cut part of a leaf away, that energy field, when you rephotograph it, holds the original blueprint shape of the leaf, even though part of it is gone. And it takes a while for that energy to reform itself into the new situation with the piece taken out of the leaf. And when people have limbs removed, of course, they feel for some time that the limb is still there. And then eventually that goes away. And that's the energy field reforming itself into the new situation as opposed to the one that was there before. So therefore, this energy that we're generating that can now be photographed and can certainly be felt when you meet someone and you say, oh, I've got bad vibes from them, or I've got good vibes from them, depending on their own state of being. This energy is the energy that creates our reality, because it attracts to us a reflection of itself, and what that energy reflects is our inner self, our emotional, spiritual, and mental state. So when we feel fear, we attract to us fear. We attract to us what we most fear. And this is the ultimate evolutionary genius. It's what I call designer evolution. Because of this system of what we put out is what we get back, we constantly see a reflection of our inner self in our everyday life. Therefore, we can see our inner self in a physical way and learn from the experience and move on. Also, fear is the greatest block on evolution. Whatever area that we fear, that our fear relates to, is a no-go area for our evolution. Because people don't normally say, well, I fear that, I'm going to face it. They go, oh, no, thank you very much, change the subject, not going in there. So this process of drawing to us what we put out means that we have to face what we're putting out so we can face it and evolve. So when we fear something, we draw what we fear to us eventually. When we put out anger, we draw to us anger. When I was having my angry period, in the 1970s particularly, my life was a series of angry confrontations. I was working in the media and the BBC and all that stuff, and wherever I went, I was attracting angry people all the time. Even if I was in an apparently consciously calm state, my subconscious anger is still going out there and it's still pulling in angry people. Someone comes into a bar in that period and they'd had a bad day, they found me every time. And then I realized, and I started to ask a few questions, what's the common denominator of all these angry confrontations? Oh yes, it's you. So what goes on? What's causing them? Why? Started to realize, because I was angry, I was attracting anger. There was a lovely song that I came across by an American group which said, if you hold anger, guess what comes to you? A lot of very angry people do. And I certainly know that to be true. And when I've observed my own life and the lives of others, it's very obvious that what they're putting out in their state of being is creating their physical life. And there's nothing more debilitating, more controlling and limiting than the victim mentality. We're encouraged by this manipulation throughout our lives to see ourselves as victims, to blame someone else. Oh, I'm a victim, I'm in this situation because of A, B, C, D, and on it goes. And when we're in that state, we're going to stay in that state because when you think you're a victim, the victim vibe goes out, the victim circumstance goes in. When you say, hey, I'm not a victim, I'm in control of my life, I've created these circumstances I don't like, therefore I can create circumstances I do. At that point, the victim mentality is gone. Victim circumstances stop being attracted, and suddenly people come into your life who are just the people you need to get you out of the circumstances you don't like. And if you don't realize what's happening, and most of us don't at the time, we say, oh my God, mate, I was so lucky. This fella came into my life at just the right time. This person, I couldn't believe it. Amazing luck. No. You pulled them in because your state of being had changed and you synced with what you needed to get out of that situation. We are so in control of our destiny, it's unbelievable. And yet billions are persuaded they're not, and therefore they create a very different reality. So if we're in fear, we can attract a reflection of fear. But when we emit love, we create a very different energy. Therefore, we create a very different reality. It's just a choice. Everything is just a choice. I keep hearing people say, oh, I had no choice, mate. I had to do it. We never have no choice. We have choices we'd like to make, choices we'd rather not make, but we never have no choice. It's a cop-out. And some people find it very difficult to take this on because it's much easier in their own mind to blame someone for what happens in our lives. Much more of a challenge to say, hey, I've created this. I'm responsible for it. But when you do, you stop creating what you don't like and you start creating what you do. And this love connection is the key to removing this manipulation and taking humanity onto another level of existence, another level of consciousness, which is what's happening to so many people in this period we're going through now. There's been some tremendous science that's going on over the last few years and is going on now. Open-minded science, which is challenging this tunnel vision that official science has to keep us from what's really going on. One excellent place of this research is called the HeartMath Institute in America. And what they've shown, and people like Greg Braden in his videos and a book called Awakening to Zero Point, which I would recommend, have been looking at and communicating, is this scientific confirmation that what I'm talking about here is not some airy-fairy concept, but is actually scientifically provable, as well as from our own experience. What they've shown, for instance, is if you put an empty jar with electrons in it, when you put a piece of DNA in it, that energy forms itself in the jar to the DNA form. When you take the DNA out, the energy still holds that DNA form. In other words, when we're walking through our lives in the supermarket or whatever, oh my goodness me, the price of fish this week. When we're doing all that stuff, we're actually resonating and changing the energy field around us in relation to our state of being. So you don't have to be kind of in front of a camera talking about this stuff. You can do it in your everyday life. If you go out with an open heart and love in your heart, you will be changing the energy field to that resonance of love wherever you go.